right. Hello, 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 hello. Let's see, let me get my stuff on the screen here. All right. There we go. There's everybody. All righty. We are here. Again, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the beatzillapdx official show. I am beatzillapdx officially. And I have a correction. So yesterday I said that I was actually finishing the series yesterday, but actually that was not correct because I did also mean to wrap out this series with the icons. So the Icon Speak Show, which this is. So I guess my light's cool. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. Queen Adia, Judah Queen, Conscious Outlaw, Oyela, Aket. All right. Alrighty. Cool. So we'll get right on into it. So I wanted to go ahead and some of this clips I'll be playing today are just, mainly for inspirational sake to understand and kind of get reconnected to some of the people that we never had a chance to experience in our lifetime. And we definitely didn't hear about in our lifetime growing up. They weren't mentioned. Some may have been mentioned wrongly. You know what I'm saying? That happens a lot, of course. So first, I will start with the man who originally was one of the inspirations to Brother Malcolm X's father. None other than Marcus Garvey. So let me go ahead and play this audio for you.
Fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you in the name of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the World. You may ask, what organization is that? It is for me to inform you that the Universal Negro Improvement Association is an organization that seeks to unite into one solid body the 400 million Negroes of the world, to link up the 15 million Negroes of the United States of America with the 20 million Negroes of the West Indies, the 40 million Negroes of South and Central America with the 280 million Negroes of Africa for the purpose of bettering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. As you are aware, the world in which we live today is divided into separate race groups and distinct nationalities. Each race and each nationality is endeavoring to work out its own destiny to the exclusion of other races and other nationalities. We hear the cry of England for the Englishman, of France for the Frenchman, of Germany for the German, of Ireland for the Irish, of Palestine for the Jew, of Japan for the Japanese, of China for the Chinese. We of the Universal Negro Improvement Association are raising the cry of Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. There are 400 million Africans in the world who have Negro blood coursing through their veins. And we believe that the time has come to unite these 400 million people for the one common purpose of bettering their conditions. The great problem of the Negro for the last 500 years has been that of disunity. No one or no organization ever succeeded in uniting the Negro race. But within the last 4 years, the Universal Negro Improvement Association has worked wonders in bringing together in one fold 4 million organized Negroes who are scattered in all parts of the world, being in the 48 states of the American Union, all the West Indian Islands, and the countries of South and Central America and Africa. These 4 million people are working to convert the rest of the 400 million scattered all over the world, and it is for this purpose that we are asking you to join our ranks and to do the best you can to help us to bring about an emancipated race. If anything praiseworthy is to be done, it must be done through unity. And it is for that reason that the Universal Negro Improvement Association calls upon every Negro in the United States to rally to its standards. We want to unite the Negro race in this country. We want every Negro to work for one common object, that of building a nation of his own on the great continent of Africa. That all Negroes all over the world are working for the establishment of a government in Africa means that it will be realized in another few years. We want the moral and financial support of every Negro to make the dream a possibility. Already, this organization has established itself in Nigeria, West Africa, and is endeavoring to do all possible to develop that Negro country to become a great industrial and commercial commonwealth. Pioneers have been sent by this organization to Nigeria, and they are now laying the foundations upon which the 400 million Negroes of the world will build. If you believe that the Negro has a soul, if you believe that the Negro is a man, if you believe the Negro was endowed with the senses commonly given to other men by the Creator, then you must acknowledge that what other men have done, Negroes can do. We want to build up cities, nations, governments, industries of our own in Africa, so that we'll be able to have a chance to rise from the lowest to the highest positions in the African Commonwealth.
Well, again, that brother was definitely speaking about unity and collective, also that collective economics as well. So just to read up a quick bio of Marcus Mosiah Garvey Sr. Was a Jamaican political activist, publisher, journalist, entrepreneur, and orator. He was the founder and the first president general of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, through which he declared himself provisional president of Africa. Let's see. So he was born August 17th, 1887 in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, and he died June 10th, 1994 in West Kidderminster, London, United Kingdom. And that's who you just heard. So again, he was an inspiration to even Malcolm X's father, and a lot of other people who have came along the way. You know what I mean? So right now, that was the first. Let's get to the next. So understanding that all the things that these people were trying to get Black folks to connect with, we are doing the same thing right now. So that's why I wanted to play basically a connection between then and now. And you're going to hear a lot of the same things that we get hit with now with the new Black media and how we're responded to. It's almost like I'm going through this stuff. It's almost like word for word, the response that, or the questions or the narrative they're trying to set. Take that off. Let's see. Let me get. I think I want to go here because I'm going to go through a few of these Malcolm X clips here. They're not long, but I just want you to take note of what he is trying to get across and then how they're trying to frame it. Okay? So make sure you pay very close attention to how they keep trying to frame Malcolm X's narrative and also Elijah Muhammad as well.
Could you tell us your purpose of being here in Providence for the second time?
The Muslims here in America who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have our annual convention in Chicago every year, and I'm traveling around the country for the purpose of seeing that the groups that are going by caravan are properly organized and properly informed.
Do we have a mosque here in the city of Providence?
Yes, there is a Muslim mosque here in Providence where meetings are held every Thursday night and every Sunday night.
Well, we never hear anything from them. How come?
Well, I religiously believe that the only way the black man's condition can be corrected in America, politically, socially, economically, and otherwise, is if we do it ourselves. And our religion teaches us and gives us the incentive, the ingenuity, the know-how to separate ourselves from white society and try and do for ourselves in our own society what the white man has done for himself and his kind in his society. And many of the so-called Negro integrationists who have looked forward toward the day when they could intermingle with whites, they think that it's outrageous now that it appears that they're just about to make it into the promised land of integration, as Martin Luther King calls it, they think that we are almost traitors to step in at this point and say that we don't want integration.
Well, you say separation instead of segregation. Can this be accomplished, do you think, really?
The black man and the white man in America is already separated. The fact that you have second-class citizenship is political separation. The fact that you have black people are the last hired and the first fired is economic separation. The fact that you have discrimination is social separation. All we're asking, since separation is practiced, although it's not preached, we're asking that America practice what it preaches or preach what it practices. And whereas up to now the white community benefits, is the sole benefactor from the form of segregation that exists, we want it separate so that the black man can be benefited as well as the white be benefited. And we think that it will solve the race problem. This is just, it doesn't involve hypocrisy, it's recognizing factors as they are, and that's the only way to solve the problem.
Mr. X, are you for total separation right to the point where you might even want your own state?
Yes, we who follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad have been taught that total separation is the only way to solve the race problem in this country.
Do you speak at all on anything of a political nature?
Well, it depends upon what you mean by politics. We are a religious group. We're religiously motivated. But when in our religion we're taught that we should have freedom, justice, and equality. Some people place freedom, justice, and equality in a political category. But just as Moses in the Bible, his entire message was a message of separation and freedom for his people. And despite the fact that he was seeking freedom for his people and a land, by the way, for his people, Moses is never represented by anyone other than as a religious leader. He's never called a political leader. And since our people today in America are in the same condition that Moses found his people in, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a modern counterpart of Moses among us, we look upon him as a man of God, a messenger of God, and a religious man in the same light and in the same category and at the same level with Moses.
I was thinking basically of the present Congo situation and its political overtones in many respects. Do you have any comment on the Congo situation?
Whenever the Congo problem, the Angola problem, and the Algeria problem, all of these problems are discussed in the United Nations, race is basically at the bottom of all. And it's a problem that you can't ignore here in America, and that we as Muslims can't ignore here in America, because as these dark countries in Africa gain their independence and they emerge and they rise, it's causing a fall of the European nations. As they become stronger economically, the European nations become weaker economically. It has necessitated their creating this common market in Europe. The common market, or the need for a common market by Europeans, was created by the freedom or the independence of the African nations and the Asian nations. So although Islam is our religion and we're religiously motivated, we can never lose sight of the fact that race is playing, not only here in America, but also on a worldwide basis, on an international basis.
You happen to...
Now, you see how it keeps going back to economics. Now, for all of y'all who were part of my broadcast yesterday, you understand we talked about selling the Negro, the secret to selling the Negro, which was about explain the amount of wealth that black people were able to spend. And so trying to get black folks out of the ownership move more so into the consumer move. Now, how what he is explaining, again, when you started talking about group economics, circulating that dollar amongst black folks, and really that means being black owned, self-contained, and everything within blackity black. You know what I mean? They were looking at that as a threat. Remember, I said that yesterday. When they start talking about the word, when they start using words like threat and power, that's cause for concern. But briefly, let me read just a quick bio. We definitely know who Malcolm X, but to just give this brother his due justice, Malcolm X. Born 1925, passed on 1965. Malcolm X was an African-American civil rights leader prominent in the Nation of Islam until his 1965 assassination. He vigorously supported Black nationalism. And one of the hugest parts in Black nationalism is finance. So understanding, pulling our dollars together. But we see right now, we have people that like, well, I'm still going to get my nails done. I ain't got jumped on yet. So who is Malcolm X? Malcolm X was a minister, human rights activist, and prominent Black nationalist leader who served as national spokesman for the Nation of Islam during the 1950s and 1960s. Due largely to his efforts in the Nation of Islam, it grew from more than a mere 400 members at the time he was released from prison in 1952 to 40,000 members by 1960. So when he stepped on the scene, there was 400 members. But within 8 years, it was up to 40,000 members. Wow. See, you got to understand, when the truth resonates with people, it just does, And like I said yesterday, how can we lose with truth on our side? As it goes on to read, a naturally gifted orator, Malcolm X exhorted Black people to cast off the shackles of racism by any means necessary, including violence. The fiery civil rights leader broke with the Nation of Islam shortly before his assassination in 1965 at the Audubon Ballroom in Manhattan, where he had been preparing to deliver a speech. So I'll start, okay, and I'll go on to read this next little paragraph here. Malcolm X was born on May 19th, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. He was the fourth of 8 children born to Louise, a homemaker, and Earl Little, a preacher who was also an active member of the local chapter of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and avid supporter of Black nationalist leader Marcus Garvey. Due to Earl Little's civil rights activism, the family was subjected to frequent harassment from white supremacist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, and one of its splinter fractions, the Black Legion. In fact, Malcolm Little had his first encounter with racism before he was even born. When my mother was pregnant, this is a quote from Malcolm X. When my mother was pregnant with me, she told me later, a party of hooded Ku Klux Klan riders galloped up to our home. Malcolm later remembered brandishing their shotguns and rifles. They shouted for my father to come out. So, and if anybody has watched the movie or has kept up with the story, then you understand that they killed his father and then basically said it was a suicide by bashing in his own head and laying on railroad tracks. So, of course, he was killed by the Klan. No one was ever punished. And so it goes in this society. And when our lives have such a low value, that's why I always, I talk about the death rap and the death music and the mindless zombie burnout TV programming, which is reality TV. It's Miracle Whip liars. We have Garvey, a Leo, and Malcolm X, a Taurus. Powerful men, absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of, my birthday's next Friday. Let's see, where am I going next here? Let me, because now, did you notice how the dude was trying to get back to, well, you guys sound like you preach hate. You sound like you preaching hate. No, it's not hate. Let's see. Where do I want to go? I'm going to put this one up here. So, I think, let me get this queued up for you. Another one. Thank you, Sergeant B.
Sir, what's the real reason why you two men split? Is it merely ideological, or is it personality? What else?
Probably personality. It was not the statement that originally was given by the movement when we split. It's more personality than anything else.
You've called people like Martin Luther King, who just got a Nobel Peace Prize, an Uncle Tom. Is this correct, first?
Well, I'd rather say that in the States, there's a law that has recently been passed, or a decision handed down by the court, wherein if you call someone an Uncle Tom, they can sue you for libel.
Well,
so I never refer to them as Uncle Toms. I would say that Uncle Martin is my friend.
Uncle Martin is your friend, yet you would disagree with his approach to what he wants to accomplish.
Definitely. If his approach would bring about what the black man in America needs to completely eliminate the problem that we have, I would say well and good. But I very much doubt that anyone who adopts the approach that Martin Luther King has been teaching to our people in that country can point to any meaningful gains that has actually served to solve the problem.
Black Muslims have sometimes, whether you have or not, and I think probably you have sometimes, it seemed to me, been preaching hate to meet hate.
There you go.
I don't advocate any kind of hate.
But there's a lot of talk that sounds very much like it.
No, I think that the guilt complex of the American white man is so profound until when you begin to analyze the real condition of the black man in America, instead of the American white man eliminating the causes that create that condition, he tries to cover it up by accusing his accusers of teaching hate. But actually, they're just exposing him for being responsible for what exists.
Well, that's something of an argument, but I...
Now, does that sound familiar? You know, doesn't that sound like how we are done right now? I mean, just think, for y'all that are on Twitter, Instagram, y'all see these conversations that go on, and a lot of y'all are involved in them. So, does this not sound exactly like that? I mean, well, you're preaching hate, it's divisive. It's the same thing. Now, look at what we're dealing with right now with critical race theory. We are literally upset at history being taught. You understand what I'm saying? They are, oh, yes, sir, Gemini, absolutely. I'm a Gemini dragon, matter of fact. Yes, one of the names that I actually produce under is Jimmy Dragon. So, but yeah, so you understand how he's trying to work this hate language into the conversation. And again, we go through it right now. It's divisive to talk about critical race theory. We're just talking about history. This is what's happened in this country. Now, if you have not watched all 4 videos that I've already done, which would be taking out the trash, the then and now of the politics of anti-blackness, and oh boy, I got to get these titles together. But it'll be my last 4 videos, and this is number 5. And one of the videos I showed you how the segregationists were feeling, but I also made a point, because that's why I keep replaying the same clip about the justification of the feeling of superiority. That part is huge. It's very, very important, because I mean that goes into a psyche and an understanding. And the more that you can get, pretty much that is the line thinking of white supremacists. You know, so if you look equal to them, it is a problem. They don't like that at all. They don't like that at all. Let's continue.
I've heard speeches made by some of the people of your group. I think I've heard you make speeches. It seemed to me that you were advocating what I would have to describe, I think, as violence to meet the serious injuries that have been done your people, with which I totally agree.
I don't call that violence. I don't in any way encourage black people to go out and initiate acts of aggression indiscriminately against whites. But I do believe that the black man in the United States, and any human being, anywhere, is well within his right to do whatever is necessary, by any means necessary, to protect his life and property, especially in a in a country where the federal government itself has proven that it is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of those human beings.
Just before Pierre takes it, you've got a pretty good fighter and the world's heavyweight champion lined up with you to help out. Yes, Pierre.
Well, Mr. X, if I guess I call you that, is that the proper appellation,
Yes.
Mr. X? I'm wondering if you still believe, as I think you certainly did at the time you were allied to the black Muslim movement, in a segregated black nation in North America.
I don't believe in any form of segregation or any form of racism. I'm against any form of segregation and against racism.
Is it, am I right in saying that the black Muslim movement, which you have left, did believe in that?
Well, Elijah Muhammad taught his followers that the only solution was a separate state for black people. And as long as I thought he genuinely believed that himself, I believed in him and believed in his solution. But when I began to doubt that he himself believed that that was feasible, and I saw no kind of action designed to bring it into existence or bring it about, then I turned in a different direction.
Are you still a Muslim yourself?
Oh, yes.
So now this is after his split with the nation, but I wanted to make sure that I played something because again, I think probably for Elijah Muhammad, and I can't say this definitively, but I would have to assume that he knew he was in failing health. So with things kind of falling apart, that organization had never seen that kind of growth. But with that being said, things happen. Things happen. People fall out with each other. No one is perfect. But the message was still the same. So understanding Malcolm X was kind of more of a revolutionary than I guess people would first think. But he was looking for a separation, which pretty much never happened. I mean, it did happen in some aspect of thinking, because we do have, you got the FOI. They have a complete system. You got that big old ranch out there in Detroit. And so, yeah, absolutely. So there, even that organization to this day, hey, what's up, Ravel? To this day, they have a disdain for black unity. And when you have people that know how to work a pre-programmed group, because a lot of us are, we still got post-traumatic slave syndrome. That's kind of they know how to scar you genetically. You understand what I'm saying? So those scars can run generations deep. It takes a lot to recover from that. So, you got to think, a lot of people, man, we have caught hell for centuries. What's up, Desmond Works? What's up, my brother? All the way from Louisville. Yeah. So, they definitely got to keep us under their thumbs and under control. Because once we start getting from under that, when we can say what we want to say, control our own platforms, and not have to worry about getting our careers buried, that's dangerous for them, because it relinquishes the control, and we can say what the hell we want to say. Just like how just earlier today, Judge Joe Brown was on with Kwame Brown, and something I caught the end of it that he told him. He's like, yeah, just call me because it don't matter. They can't do nothing to me. I already made my money, and I feel him on that, which, I really appreciate Judge Joe Brown. He goes hard. You understand? He goes super duper hard. But I'm going to again play. I played a clip from Malcolm X last week. But this is basically on the same subject, but it's a different clip, and this is actually an interview. So the other was a speech. This is an interview. So let's get on in here.
And being a friend, I think, are two different things. I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chopped in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ.
I would agree that no doubt there have been a large number of whites who have posed as liberals and as friends of the Negro and who have time and again betrayed the Negro. On the other hand, I think one could point to a large number of whites who have struggled for civil rights, for equality, and have got little or nothing out of it, other than quite a few bruises.
Give me an example.
Well, the large number of white students who have gone into the South, for example, working for SNCC and other organizations.
Not working for SNCC or other organizations, but working for the white political machines who benefit by the voting efforts of Negroes.
Okay. I'll be more specific. I would cite Herbert Hill, for example, as a kind of person who has championed Negro job rights, for example, in New York City and elsewhere. He has fought the political machine.
First time I met Herbert Hill personally was when they were picketing to stop the working on the Harlem Hospital in Harlem. Negroes for 10 years had to fight the city to get an annex built on the Harlem Hospital. Because in Harlem, we need a hospital more so than anything else. Our people are sick. Plus, we do a lot of cutting and shooting of each other, though we profess to be nonviolent. And Herbert Hill brought his forces out and stopped the working on that site. This is the first time I ever saw him. Then, when work was brought to a halt on a hospital in Harlem, the same Negroes tried to stop the work at the Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn, which is predominantly white. They were out there for 3 months during the summer. Couldn't stop anything. And I never saw Herbert Hill out there one time. Now, whenever it takes a stoppage of something that's going to affect the white man, you find the white liberal absent. But when it involves something that primarily will affect the best interests of black people, and black people only, then that white liberal is present. Herbert Hill is the labor secretary for the NAACP. And if he was interested in black people, he would prepare a black man with the type of knowledge and understanding of the labor troubles involving black people that would enable a black man to sit in the same position as Secretary of Labor or Labor.
Now, listen to this. This part is very important. This part is very important. Now, this goes to the Fox aspect of it, because this cat, appears for all intents and purposes. He's literally working for the NAACP. But why is he over the money? Why is he over the money over an organization that's supposed to be for the advancement of colored people, but doesn't have a black person in it? Pay attention to this line here. He's really finna open this one up.
Secretary in the NAACP. I'm suspicious of whites who join Negroes and always have to be in the lead, who always have to be the head, who always have to be at the top in Negro organizations. Those whites who really have the interest of blacks at heart, let them give some advice to some Negroes and stand on the sideline. But don't join the organization and then get at the head of it and pose as a friend of Negroes.
Well, I would defend his sincerity and his commitment. And more than that, I would say that just because a person is a Negro or a black American does not mean that he's going to struggle for Negro rights or for jobs for Negroes or anything else. I think.
How the hell would you not? If you're discussing the problem with black folks being shut out economically, then absolutely you're in that conversation. So what he's doing is, well, hey, what about Michael Jordan? What about Oprah? What about Bill Cosby? They got all that money. That's that talk. You see how old this practice is? This is where I really play. I'm going all the way back because I want y'all to see, like, this is doing this. Nothing has changed. So don't tell me about what ain't and what is when I can go back for 40 to 50 years of video footage, 60. Some of these have been some of the footage is 100 years old. Come on. This has been a long-standing thing. Again, don't think of it as bullets have to be sailing over your head for you to be in a war. You know you're in a war because the propaganda that they're putting out, because media is a tool of warfare. See, this is why they would try to get brothers on there. And of course, Malcolm was just too sharp for that. Ice Cube was one of those modern day types that doesn't fall into the word trickery. You know what I'm saying? Because they'll get you up there to try to get you to slip up talking. See there? Yeah, you guys are aggressive. You guys are angry. Just look how they're doing the brother right now, Kwame Brown. Now, just for him defending himself against somebody that doesn't even know him, and then even for the people who do, what would you go public with any of that for? And then like to be throwing any other brother under the bus at this stage in the game is real funny style. But if you do it, don't be mad at how he responds. Because at this point, and I do understand what Kwame Brown is doing. And he understands he definitely needs to align himself with the protection of the grassroots black folk, because we're the ones that's going to have his back. We the people, we are who dictates what is going on in our community. The devil cannot tell us who our friends are. So, and right now, people have no reason not to like him. If that's the case, because there's a lot of things I'm sure he has saw. I'm sure he has seen things. And just with the whole Charlemagne thing, some people don't ever need to be tapped. And if you're not ready, leave that man alone. And not because he's some violent dude. It's because you're dirty. Anyway, back to this. It is what it is. We got to always learn. Yeah, we got to learn how to cut these folks out to mix, and we got to learn when people are speaking with forked tongues, even if they black.
Today, you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not.
Well, now I don't know why that froze. That freeze. Not sure what happened there. That's not the end of it. Oh well. You guys get the point of that. There is no, like right now, we have the congressional black con job that gets nothing done, but then complains when other brand new people popping on the scene are getting results. And you understand, like I said, hashtag new black media. This thing kicked off for real. And it did start with George Floyd. And if y'all remember, that week, I told you it would be a couple of days before Black Lives Matter was able to get their boots on the ground, because this didn't come from them. This came from us. So how the George Floyd situation even got out there, they didn't have anything to do with it. That's why they didn't show up till Thursday. That's days later. So nobody was dealing with them. The Black Lives Matter frauds. These are paid people. Now, the only difference that they did with Black Lives Matter is they didn't put a white face on a black organization. All they did was put black faces on a Democratic LGBT organization. and, you know, got out the votes. And if y'all follow me on Instagram, I actually posted the woman who was behind the director of y'all remember Get Your Booty to the Pole. So people had already exposed the director who was behind that, but I actually found the person to whom was funding it, and it's this whole other Rachel Dolezal looking chick. So she was over some voting Democratic thing. So it was, you know, it's all covert. That's what I tell anybody. Follow the money. Follow the money. Money will always speak. And if you want to know who's who, see who's getting checks. Anybody that's coming out talking about we're for this, we're for that, go to their website and see where that donation button goes. That's who that organization is ran by. Whoever's controlling the money is who's running it. Now, I had to go through a whole thing about this Patrice Cullors, who just recently quit. Good, get on out the way. But a lot of her cronies came to a post of the young deceased King Tamir Rice's mother and had so much to say. Well, hey, we stand with the mothers of the fallen. I don't know what to tell you. So it was literally a post from her, and it's like, well, what are you complaining about? And you're mad that you can't really get out her without looking like a complete jackass. So then you try to come at the people who support us, a mother of a slain. You guys ain't worth a damn. Just for Joe Biden to get elected and still give you nothing. Good job. Yeah, man, you won. Oh, Lordy me. So with that being said, you know, you have these type of people that just really, really, really need to be removed out of the way, because all they are is harmful for our progress. You understand? And we totally get that, you know, some things are due to colonialism, slavery. Colonialism for the people abroad, for foundational Black Americans, those of us who descend from slaves here in America, that post-traumatic slave syndrome, it definitely would run deep, because, I mean, 400 years of having you totally subjugated without ever being able to reconnect to where you originally came from, not even knowing your original names or pronouncing your language, you know. Now, contrary to popular belief, they'll say Black folks were speaking Arabic. No, that was actually another slave tongue, to be quite honest. You know, the Arab slave trade was before the transatlantic slave trade, and they had their own ways of being brutal. And what's so crazy is, in slavery in America, chattel slavery, they didn't specialize in castration. Arab slavery did. However, after, I guess, during Reconstruction, Jim Crow and all of that, all of a sudden, people got really, really, really involved with cutting off Black men's penises. What do you think that's about? That's a cold hate. But shout out to Tariq Nasheed for one of the number one documentary movie in the country, Buck Breaking. And this is actually what I'm just referring to, because what you're seeing in one situation, they was buck breaking them and castrating them there. They were buck breaking them and using them to reproduce. So understanding what they set loose on the world. They set loose their own genetic annihilation. If you were breeding the strongest of the strong, then what are you? You know, you got to be clear on why people really don't like you. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just because of the color of our skin. You know, because you can't see the color of a man's, you're not seeing a man's Johnson and the color of his skin. So it was way deeper. So when these people come out here talking about, there's no proof that buck breaking ever existed, you out your damn mind. You got proof today that buck breaking existed. Get your ass out of here.
A scientific analysis of racial differences. And I have a faith that reason is a good thing, and I feel as you do about the First Amendment, but maybe with a slightly different.
Let me explain something to you. When he said reason, people who use that, and there's some people that might know or affiliated with the music business, but there's a common practice in the music industry before they put out records that they take it to the altar that is in the building, put it in the record in the center, and pray the spirit of reason over it. Now, here's the reason, because again, when you're dealing with spiritual warfare, when you're using the spirit of reason without wisdom, you just have emotion, and you have a chaotic emotion. That's why they put that music out like that. Then you got suggestive programming in it. So trust me, these people studied folks for a long time, and this Facebook and all of these different platforms only gives them more insight on how people think. So, you know, I just say monitor what you do there. They'd be like, because I've had some come to me on one post, all you do is talk against white supremacy. Why don't you ever talk against any other groups? Well, any other groups ain't subjugated us. We got to get this man's foot off our neck before he can worry about anybody else's. And it makes sense to me to worry about the biggest foot.
Emphasis. I think the really important thing about the First Amendment is it is a way of guaranteeing a high likelihood that truth will emerge as a result of conflicting ideas being expressed, and I have a thesis and a basic belief that truth is a good thing and will be of benefit to man. Thank
you. Unless you're talking about critical race theory. See, the truth is cool in the way they can control it. So that's not truth anymore. That's forked tongue speaking, y'all. That is forked tongue talk to a T. And this dude actually reminds me so much of Jared Taylor. Jared Taylor must be just like the student of Shockley here.
Thank you. Dr. Francis Welsing, give us the benefit of your theory, please.
Well, my theory was, I wrote the paper in 1969. I wrote a paper called The Crest Theory of Color Confrontation and Racism. And the sole reason behind writing that paper was an attempt to understand the behavior of white people in relationship to all people of color, every place in the world, black, brown, red, and yellow people. And the paper was presented to the Americans at the National Medical Association, the section on psychiatry in neurology, because back in 1969, the Black Caucus in the American Psychiatric Association, we had said that racism, and when we talk about racism, we're talking about the white supremacy behavior of white people. That racism was the #1 mental health problem in the nation, and it was the #1 cause of other mental health problems. And I wanted to understand what this thing of racism really is all about, because it's the thing that has caused woe and misery and suffering for the vast majority of the people on this planet that are classified as non-white. And in my attempt to understand why the necessity of white people to keep saying that white is superior and that the condition of non-white is inferior, and the more I thought about it, in conjunction with an idea that a friend of mine had, that racism was a worldwide behavioral system for the maintenance of white supremacy by a small minority of people.
Woo! Did y'all catch that? Did you catch what she just said? It is a global situation, because I still see people talking about, I'm about to leave America. You was going to leave America about, 4 years ago? That didn't happen. And truth be told, America has to say, you can go. What you talking about? If they don't say, okay, you ain't going nowhere. Now, is Jesus going to stamp the passport? I just heard too much stuff. I mean, don't be in chains and then say you're not a slave. You are not free, okay? Cut it out. You have freedom to roam around the yard. But that fence, they say who come and go. And until we're in a position to be able to do something like that, you damn right you a slave, bruh. You kidding yourself. Oh, my Lord. I'm glad your spirit is free. That's a good thing. Because at least you can be positive and have mind-boggling, blind hope in a system that has never done anything for you. You do everything for it. And then you watch everybody else reap the benefits who didn't even have to vote. Just think of all the money that the immigrants got. What vote did they cast? Oh, that's right. They couldn't because they're not legal citizens. You are. And guess what? They got paid and you didn't. Clap it up my hammies. You once again sold out the future of your people. Good Lord. And these people, you weren't supporting the Dr. Claude Andersons, the Francis Cress Welsings. You guys made them enemies. For who? Y'all might as well just do the whole Jesse Lee Peterson thing. I don't even understand why you even want to be in this space with us. You hate us. Come on. You cannot possibly love Black people and be thinking that someone else is the answer. Come on.
Put those ideas together with what we know about genetics, what we know about the condition of skin whiteness itself. The condition of skin whiteness is the genetic inability to produce skin pigment called melanin. This is a genetic recessive trait. It is a genetic deficiency state, not as defined by Francis Welsing, but defined by geneticists and dermatologists, that the inability to produce the skin pigment of melanin or melanin pigment is described as albinism. And I think that white people, even though most white people are not consciously understanding their problem in genetics, they are certainly aware that they are genetically dominated by people of color. That's why it was a statement, one drop of black blood makes you black, because people of color have the genetic capacity to annihilate white people. And so unless white people control the reproductivity of people of color, then we can postulate that perhaps one day there won't be any white people. And I think that the very survival of white people necessitates that they project genetic inferiority on people of color, because it is they who really are aware that they are genetic recessive and perhaps genetically inferior to people of color. And I am not saying this to call the condition of skin whiteness to say, well, no, white people are inferior. I'm not saying it for that purpose, but I think that it is of prime importance for the majority of people in the world to understand why it is that white people have to, the effective majority, large numbers of white people, have to move in a hostile, in an aggressive way against people of color, and have to constantly focus on it's you who's genetically inferior, because they realize that there's something wrong with their genetic status. Now,
may I take a call?
Oh, sure,
all right.
please.
Let me, so that...
Okay. Ah, yes, indeed. Something I want to point out off of something she just said about our genetics. The thought occurred to me. Our genetics basically is what sparked their movement for eugenics. Our genetics, that melanated genetics, it has been a process going on through the years. Again, this is Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. And let me see if I can get her bio up. I'm using my slowest device. So what y'all think so far, y'all? Grab the crowd for the YouTube tears. for those Mayo tears. You know, and again, with the whole white supremacist talking points that they was trying to do, this guy, William Shockley, he basically has the same talking points as Jared Taylor. And matter of fact, I'm a think that's what he was about to ask, because I do want to play a little bit more what the host asked this man. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Let me see if I can get this bio up real quick. There it is. Okay. So, and who we were just, of course, listening to was the great Frances Cress Welsing, and I'm about to read her biography. Frances Luella Welsing, born March 18th, 1935. She passed away January 2nd, 2016. Was an American psychiatrist and Black activist. Her 1970 essay, The Crest Theory of Color Confrontation, okay, and Racism, and in parentheses it has white supremacy, offered her interpretation of what she described to be the origins of white supremacy culture. Okay, that's about all they had right there. I think that's all they wanted to. That's all they wanted to say. Because, you know, when you have somebody who basically hit the nail on the head with what they were saying, then, you know, you basically just got to kind of discredit her. And I've seen somebody saying as recent as like last year or something about that, talking about, they were talking about Tariq, I believe, talking about how he believes in Frances Cress Welsing's crackpot theories. It's when you start talking about actual genetics, that's biology. Now, let you go run to the Walmart and go stick out your arm. They're going to tell you that you should believe in the science. You believe in the science, then biology is a form of science. I don't know what happened, and biology actually can be proven. Not theoretically, but actually proven. Ooh. But, you know, when things fit the narrative that they want to give you, hey, man,
because we have a number of calls, and we'll see what the public wants to find out also. Just 1 second.
University. I have a post box there, post box S, which is the same as Shockley and Stanford. I will try to supply more information, and I'm sure Dr. Welsing will say what she can do about telling people how to reach her pamphlet. Okay. But now let me say this chart that I held up a moment ago is very important in respect to this question of why I think there may be what proves a basic difference. But I'm going to say that if there were not a basic difference in intellectual capacity in the past, there probably will be a basic difference between black and white intellectual capacity in the future, simply because of the reproduction patterns. And these are Census Bureau data, and this is the most threatening aspect. And what it indicates is that for the black women of the lowest intellectual social class, which are rural farm women, generally the education is least, the average number of children is 5.4. For women with college degrees, it's 1.9. And so this is definitely unfavorable. It is reproducing far more at the bottom end and not enough to keep even at the top end.
Dr. Shockley, can
for whites, let me just finish this. For whites, the numbers are also in this direction, but nowhere nearly as severe.
Dr. Shockley, I think that in all fairness, you should explain to the audience why it is that you have, first of all, you have a very large segment of the black population who are on farms, who are deprived in cities. Why don't you explain at the time that you're showing this, Who is keeping black people in a situation like they're in? I mean, it could be, you could turn it around the other way, where you could have very large numbers of black people who are exposed to educational opportunities like white people, who are exposed to housing, who are exposed to health facilities. Why don't you explain that at the same time that you put figures like that?
I'm sure you would explain it,
No, but I
Dr.
think
Welsing,
it's important
but
in
one must say
answering-
first things first. And you've raised the basic question there, and that is whether the disadvantages are primarily a lack of opportunity or whether they are primarily a basic genetic difference. And let me mention one thing, which is that in certain areas there is no doubt about black superiority. Blacks are superior in visual acuity, and they're superior in a systematic way. Now, I don't expect that people will understand the details of this, but I simply want to show that quantitative work can be done. This happens to be a research job of my own.
This dude sounds like Jimmy the Greek. Well, you know, they take the big black man and then they take the black woman, the big black woman, and they take them and breed them, and now you got a big black slave. Oh, Lord. This dude sounds like Jimmy the Greek. Get past this cat. Mayan Bay, Tim Samore. What's going on? What's going on?
The
Welcome,
need
welcome.
to affect the environment that black people are in so that it will alter the fact that they have visual acuity that is superior to whites. The fact of visual acuity is not attacked in the same way as educational opportunity and job performance is attacked. And I think that
It's evidence for a genetic difference, in
well,
my
you see what
opinion.
I'm saying? There might be many, many more genetic differences where people of color appear superior.
If I may, we have a
he's
number of
triggered.
people, and we'd like to get to as many as possible. If you could make your answers as, not to compromise your explanation, but if you could make your answers as succinct, I would appreciate it, because we would like to involve the public as much as we can. One moment, please. You're on Black Journal. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I was wondering if Dr. Shah could explain the basic difference between the course he is taking in explaining white supremacy and the course that Hitler took during the Nazism reign.
Thank you.
Well, there are enormous differences. In fact, the lesson to be learned from Nazi history is frequently very misunderstood. And it is a lesson which Mr. Brown has told us about earlier. It's the First Amendment. It's not that eugenics is intolerable. Actually, the eugenic programs, which are the opposite of dysgenics, eugenic programs are not inconceivable. They're not inhumane. Denmark has been carrying out programs with strong eugenic implications for maybe 30 years. And it's important to note that since World War II, Denmark's per capita homicide rate dropped and is now approximately 1/20th. That is the number of deaths of probability.
How many black people live in Denmark? Denmark? So you got a case study that doesn't even involve black folks, but now you're applying it directly to one specific community. Do y'all see the way? Now look, this is exactly why I wanted to show y'all these videos, because nothing is different from then to now. This is how they was getting down then. And they always want to shift this narrative. And this dude is pushing eugenics full-fledged, talking about it's not inhumane and anything like that. Well, if you're familiar with Margaret Sanger and her agenda and her co-founder of Planned Parenthood, one William Gates Sr., you know, it's a lot of money to go around. So, you know, you would wonder, man, a person who was so involved with eugenics really now has the mindset to go say, well, hey, let me go buy up all this farmland. In the meantime, I'm going to have this guy over here tell y'all that y'all can't farm. Oh, boy. And they call black folks conspiracy theorists. Not just perceptive.
Being killed in a year by a violent homicide is roughly, the order of 100 times less for young Danes than it is for young American blacks. Now, but the lesson, let me say what the lesson of Nazi history we have in this country, and it will protect us. It's just the thing that makes this program possible. The First
Wow.
Amendment, which allows freedom of speech. If one believes that is not the right answer, then one has to be one of the most anti-German racists there can be. If one believes that the German people would have tolerated the concentration camps and the gas chambers, if news media, like the programs that Mr. Brown is setting on, if those people were willing to bring discordant views out into the open, I don't believe the concentration camps and the gas chambers could have continued to exist in Germany.
Slavery existed for over 300 years in America. What the hell is this dude talking about? No, when everybody gets on board with being wicked, then everybody participates in the wickedness. That's just, and so what can we say about the content of the character of those people? I don't have to judge you by your skin color. I could judge you by what you are participating in. Your ass is wicked. You are the devil. And it's not because you got white skin. It's because you got a black heart. Soulless individual. Another word, another meaning for effeminate is faithless. Not calling you effeminate as in you're feminine, but effeminate as in you don't have any faith.
I'd like to comment because I'd like to say that I don't think that there's a major difference between what Dr. Shockley is doing. I don't think that Dr. Shockley is fully aware of what he is doing and why he is doing what he's doing. But the long-range implications of what he is doing are no different than the propaganda campaign that Hitler and his Nazi unit carried on in Germany that ended up eliminating 6 million Jewish people. Now, what is most interesting is that Hitler said the very same thing. He said, number one, that the Jews were genetically inferior to the Aryans. Number two, he was aware that the Semites had genetically dominant genetic material to the Aryans. And if we begin to understand the way that people who were in Europe at the time that the Semites arrived from Africa, when the Semites arrived in Europe from Africa, they were people who had substantial amounts of color and who had very kinky hair because they were from the continent of Africa. And the Europeans, the white people who were there, had a reaction, a color reaction to the Semites that is no different than the reaction and the concern on the part of people who are white in this area of the world or any other area of the world to people who have the genetic capacity to produce color, who can genetically annihilate their position. And I think it's very, very important, even though Dr. Shockley, I am convinced that Dr. Shockley believes that he is perhaps elevating science with all of his charts and all of his figures, but he doesn't understand the things that propel him as a white individual in a social system that has programmed him throughout his life and programmed large numbers of people like him to focus on the genetics of people of color in such a way as to destroy people of color.
I would like to ask a question, and Dr. Shockley, if you could answer it yes or no, I would appreciate it.
Now,
do you believe that black people are inferior in intelligence because of their heredity?
I have a standard statement. It is not yes or no. It's memorized. I say it at the same time every time, I think.
Blah, blah, blah.
What I say is this. My research leads me, and it's a tragic conclusion, really. My research leads me inescapably to the opinion that the major cause of the American Negro's intellectual and social deficits is hereditary and racially genetic in origin, and thus not remediable to a major degree by practical improvements in environment.
All right. If you believe that the position relatively of black Americans to white Americans is based on a genetic inferiority, and I will accept the responsibility for that word, then what do you see as the solution to the problem?
Bam.
Well, I see the first aspect of this is to prevent the problem from becoming worse by dysgenics. This first word that
Would you
that
translate
I mentioned,
dysgenics for me and the audience?
What I
Would that be sterilization?
Let's make it real simple. Sterilizing black folk. You understand what this is what, and this is, I'm glad he asked that question because it's real simple. Okay, well, if we're so inferior, then what do you do about that? And if y'all ever watched the debate with Tariq Nasheed and Jared Taylor, this It's almost line for line. As soon as that question comes up, well, this thing here, sterilization. So again, just what she said, you are looking to destroy us. Oh Lord. So that's that is Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, another icon. And you watched her roast William Shockley. Roasted the hell out of him. Not much he could really say other than just a bunch of babble. Let me play another sister real quick.
To whom you don't have the relationship with. But they do tend to go over. Relationships do go over like that. And as we move into what has happened to this, I know that our relationships sometimes really reach a low ebb. That's one of the reasons why we wrote the book, How to Find and Keep a BMW, a Black Man Working. That was spelled out in there. It's just very serious. Because our relationships didn't start yesterday or last week. It also started 400 years ago when those 19 persons were here. And I want you to remember something very important that one of our by any means necessary power brokers told us, and that was Malcolm X. He said, if we can only remember that you didn't land at Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on you. And it's very essential that we kind of keep this in place. And knowing that these are the things that happen, then we have to move more to change it. See, we have a system that would not like to see black males and black females together. They would not like to see that happening at all. Because once we come together, they understand the power of the strength of the black woman, the queen of the universe. They know that, her strength. They also know the power of the black male, the warrior. If you would turn him loose, he will protect also his family and things that need to be done. And because they understand that if our relationships are together, then they will lose. But if our relationships are torn up, then we can forever be treated in certain ways by the oppressors. That's why they gave us something called integration, which is nothing but the illusion of inclusion. They gave us this. They actually gave the statement. And when they gave that statement, it meant that they could go right into your homes. They went into the black homes now, the powers that be, and told us that you cannot discipline your children anymore. And if you discipline your children, you will go into jail. It's this kind of thing they told us. Now, this is amazing that, you know, the black parents who in Africa, that was out of the question. Some social worker come in there saying you can't discipline your children, the social worker would disappear. As you all know, this kind of thing would go on. You would be sitting in a place like...
And you know what? And that's one of the greatest things about these old videos is, and this sister is, I think she passed away in 2019. So, you know, just a touch on her real quick. Dr. Julia Hare, her and her husband actually started a black think tank. And started a black think tank based around protecting the black family. So that was what they were doing. It's definitely something to check out. Check out Dr. Julia Hare. Of course, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Obviously Malcolm X. And then Marcus Garvey as well. And another great sister who is still among us.
Destroy our families because we don't know any better, or because we're too lazy, or because nobody has ever called on us to repent. And so then that led me to the study. And so as I was going along, initially I was keeping up with names and addresses and all of those things for that so-called research that they talk about. And then I found out that we didn't have a control group. There was not one set of Negroes that I could point at and say, well, these particular Negroes over here, they didn't suffer from the psychological trauma of slavery, so we don't have to deal with that. I found out that all of us had the same problems, and that we were not as different as we think we are. We are all doing the same things. We're all practicing the same patterns of behavior. A pattern is something that people follow because they think it's the right way to go. We have been doing it and approving that behavior between each other because we think, well, this is just how you do it. We have not represented our own ideas. We have not had anyone to represent our own ideas to us. The only place we have learned about how to be a woman or how a man is to be a man is on television. We haven't.
That was by design. That was by design, folks. So remember what I've been saying. And of course, that is Shahrazad Ali. You definitely need to check her out. She was best known for her books in the late 80s and early 90s. But she's still speaking. Hopefully I'll get a chance to put her on this platform. That would be great. I'm all for that. If anybody can make that happen. Small platform, but hey, that would set this off great, wouldn't it? But just, something that she was saying about, again, this targeting of the unity. So for all of these shows that I've shown you for these last, which this is the 5th broadcast, this is the finale, with just hearing it straight as it is from the icons. I'm going to play one more little quick clip, and then I'm going to wrap on up because I just need y'all to see these other people's faces and just hear one real quick what they have to say. So as you can see, we have a heavy influence on the grassroots and, the revolutionary mindset, which needs to come back because this is who we are. We need to tap back into our greatness and restore our own minds, because right now we have everything that does not benefit us speaking for us, and that gotta stop.
The colors of the people, the customs of the people, and he was such a good reporter. When the Africans told him something he didn't believe, he said so.
Is it fair to call them invaders then? It seems like they were nonviolent.
No, this was Greek curiosity that would be the preface to the invaders later on. Now, my point that I'm getting to is that the information that Herodotus brought back to Greece whetted the curiosity of other Greeks, and Alexander's teacher, Aristotle, introduced him to the works of Herodotus. And Alexander, when he invaded Africa 332 BC, had a kind of respect for Africa that no invader has had before or since.
You mean Aristotle's writings and thoughts were based on an African root?
Yes.
Listen to this.
And a lot of his so-called philosophy, which was more African, but we won't get into Aristotle as probably the world's first pleasurer, almost mass
thief
pleasurer. Now, Alexander came into Africa with great respect. He wrote his mother, and he said that he had come to literally the home of Greek culture, especially our Greek religion. He tried to effect a wedding between young Greece and old Africa in decline. Now, Africans were seeing Europeans as invaders for the first time. This is 332 BC. And seeing them physically for the first time. There is nothing that happened in Africa before that the European had anything to do with at all. And remember, when they came for the first time, they came as invaders. And except for the Alexandrian period that is marginally positive, all relationships between Africans and Europeans from that day to this day has been negative.
All right, let's talk about that second intrusion or invasion.
No, the intrusion that would be aggressive would be the Punic Wars. Hannibal's father warned him of those people across that water and told him in essence, you got to take the battle to them before they bring it to you. Now, Hannibal was cautiously trying.
Hannibal's father was on point, on point, on point. He knew who his enemy was. This is one thing I want people also to get into. Because I know a lot of people, well, I don't want to pay attention to this. I don't want to pay attention to that. If you do not understand the war that's being waged against you, you are doomed. You understand me? Doomed. Now, you can be in denial that you're not in a war. But once you start hearing things like threat and black men ain't no good and this, that, and the other, and we don't have any say-so in it, you should be knowing that's propaganda to make people feel less about you. So your worth is your value is no good.
Trying to guard that front door of Africa from arising a hungry Roman people. Now, the Carthaginians had good relationship with the people of Sicily. And the people of Sicily did not want to join the other Romans in a fight against Carthage. But Rome wanted the trade in the Mediterranean. They didn't want to share it. They wanted all of it. And
greed.
A jealousy grew among them about the city of Carthage to the point that they greeted each other in the morning and added, Carthage must be destroyed. They opened the Senate and added, Carthage must be destroyed. They said good night to each other. They said, Carthage must be destroyed. Yes, Roman citizen, Carthage must be destroyed.
And so when Hannibal got a wind of that kind of a thought process,
he took the battle to them before they could bring it to him. And for a generation, that old lion held Europe at bay and saved Africa from European aggression. Finally, betrayed by two Africans, Scipio Africanus and Maecenacius, he knew that they had not protected his right flank or his left flank, and that Roman army was coming down on him. Then he told his steward, send me the wine. And he took some dependable African poison. But there's much more to this life than that. This was probably the finest physical soldier the world has yet to know. He never asked his men to do anything that he wouldn't do.
With the demise of Hannibal, what happened?
So, I mean, and I'll just stop that right there. He didn't do it. He didn't ask his soldiers to do anything that he wouldn't do. That solid brother right there is one John Heinrich Clark. Born John Henry Clark, January 1st, 1915, and he passed away July 16, 1998. He was an American historian, professor, and pioneer in the creation of Pan-African and Pan-African studies, professional institutions in academia starting in the late 1960s. So, you know, he was a writer and a historian and a professor. So just wanted to hit some of these icons today and let them speak for their own words, so you guys can hear the ties in from yesteryear all the way to today, and understand that we are still in the same battle. They have not let up. They have not taken the albatross from around our neck, and we must stay steady against this monstrous, wicked, demonic beast that is white supremacy. I hope everybody enjoyed this program, because I really did. This was really enjoyable. Even more so was the research, because I didn't even play everything I got. I may have to do another part for this. Maybe that might be the answer. What do y'all think? Let me know. But again, thank you for being here with me at the Beatzilla PDX official show. You can follow me at Twitter, Beatzilla PDX. You can follow me on Instagram, Beatzilla PDX. On Melanated People, you can follow me at Michael Beatzilla Whitmore. And also at Facebook, you can follow me on Beatzilla PDX. If you have any questions or show topic ideas, you can email me at ourrealtruth@gmail.com. That's ourrealtruth@gmail.com. And if you feel so inclined to put something in the bucket and drop a donation, you definitely can. Thank you, Conscious Outlaw. Thank you for your donation, my brother. You can do that at CashApp, $beatzillapdx. That's CashApp at $beatzillapdx. And like we always say here, because we speak things into existence as if they already are. So with that being said, Babylon is fallen. Babylon is fallen. Let it fall and let us rise. And as I started this series, and like I ended my show yesterday and ended a few of these, we are leaving to the message about the stone of truth. Because the one thing we have to make sure we always do is recognize liars for liars, and we got to get them out the paint. You know what I'm saying? Even, some may look like us, but everybody can't come, and not everybody has the same spirit. So let's test the spirits by the Spirit, because people could say, you could talk a good game, but if you're not really, really exemplifying it, we can see through that. Best believe we'll see through that. So with that being said, family, Solid D, thank you, brother, thank you, appreciate the donation. So let's go with that. Let's see, get this on queued up. All right, y'all. Peace and shalom.
Who Satan is?
Yes, sir.
You don't have to kill him. No, the stone of truth.
Yes.
See, that's what you throw.
Yes, right.
Allah says, had we wished to take a pastime from before, surely we would have done it. Nay, we cast truth at falsehood till we knocked out its brains. Every one of you that knows the truth, stand up and tell it from the mountaintop. Black people can't take it no more. So wherever you are on the job, in the factory, I don't care where you are. If you know the truth, stand up on the truth and tell Satan, who the hell are you to try and pick my friends? Farrakhan is God's man, and you are from the enemy of God. So to hell with you. Stand up on it like a man.